If you had been standing near a quiet river in rural Japan 300 years ago, and the water suddenly went still, unnaturally still, you would not have waited to investigate. You would have stepped back, because the silence meant something was watching. Not a fish, not a drifting branch, something intelligent, something that understood you were there. And if the surface broke, if two round eyes rose just high enough above the waterline, you would already be too close. The Kappa was never introduced as a fairy tale creature. It was introduced as a warning. Long before electricity, before concrete embankments, before warning signs and swimming lessons, rivers were both survival and danger in Japan. Entire communities depended on them for irrigation, rice cultivation, transportation, and fishing. But those same rivers swallowed people without explanation. Children slipped, farmers drowned. Bodies were carried away by currents too strong to fight. When something takes lives repeatedly and unpredictably, humans search for meaning. That is where the Kappa appears. The earliest written references to Kappa appeared during Japan's Edo period, 1603 to 1868, though oral traditions almost certainly existed earlier. In regional folklore, especially in Kyushu, Shikoku, the Kansai region, and along major river systems like the Tone River, villagers described a small, humanoid creature dwelling in rivers and ponds. It was usually described as child-sized, greenish or bluish skin, webbed hands and feet, a beak-like mouth, a turtle-like shell on its back in some depictions, and most importantly, a shallow dish-like hollow on the top of its head, always filled with water. That water was not decoration. It was its life force. If the water remained full, the Kappa possessed unnatural strength. If it spilled, the creature weakened, sometimes becoming completely immobilized. This detail appears consistently across regions. But why? Because the Kappa was never random chaos. It operated under rules, and rules reflect moral systems. In many accounts, the Kappa targeted humans, particularly children, and dragged them into rivers. It was blamed for drownings, disappearances, and livestock deaths. In darker legends, it extracted something called the Shiriko-dama from its victims, a mythical sphere believed to reside inside the human body and contain life essence. Modern readers often react to this detail with discomfort, but in historical context, it served a function. Drowning victims frequently exhibit muscle relaxation and physical symptoms that pre-modern villagers could not medically explain. The concept of the Shiriko-dama became a symbolic explanation for unexplained physical trauma after drowning. The Kappa gave shape to the invisible. It gave intention to accident. But the Kappa was not always purely malevolent. In many stories, it could be defeated not by strength, but by intelligence. The Kappa was obsessed with politeness and social etiquette. If you bowed deeply to it, it would bow back. In doing so, the water in its head dish would spill. Once emptied, it lost power. This detail is critical. It teaches that respect and intelligence overcome brute force. In some regions, villagers who capture a Kappa forced it to swear an oath not to harm humans. Afterward, the creature sometimes became beneficial. There are documented folk tales of Kappa teaching villagers medical techniques, particularly bone setting, or assisting with irrigation systems. Why irrigation? Because rivers were both threat and necessity. The Kappa represented mastery over water. In Fukuoka and other regions, cucumbers were offered to rivers as appeasement. Families sometimes wrote their children's names on cucumbers and cast them into the water, asking the Kappa to spare them. The cucumber detail appears so frequently that it became a defining trait of the creature. This was not random imagination. It was integrated ritual behavior, which means belief was real. Now, the deeper question: when did the Kappa first appear? There is no single origin date. Some scholars link it to ancient Shinto water kami, local river deities who demanded respect. Others note similarities to Chinese water spirits described in earlier texts. Some anthropologists argue that Kappa legends intensified during agriculture expansion, when irrigation canals increased drowning accidents. What is historically consistent is this: the Kappa always appears where humans alter water, not in untouched wilderness, but near villages, near rice paddies, near human settlement. It emerges when humans depend on water but fail to control it. During the Edo period, as woodblock printing expanded and popular literature grew, yokai, supernatural beings, became widely documented. The Kappa was standardized visually through ukiyo-e prints and illustrated bestiaries. Artists like Toriyama Sekian included water creatures resembling Kappa in yokai collections. As the image standardized, the creature's personality diversified. Some depictions emphasized brutality, dragging horses into rivers, assaulting humans, drowning swimmers. Others portrayed it as mischievous, challenging wrestlers wrestlers to sumo matches, stealing crops, playing pranks. But the core association remained water and danger. There are historical claims of physical evidence. During the 18th and 19th centuries, some temples and traveling exhibitions displayed alleged Kappa remains, mummified limbs, strange preserved specimens. One example frequently cited is at Sogenji Temple in Tokyo, where a supposed Kappa hand was preserved. Modern analysis strongly suggests these were constructed from animal parts, similar to mermaid hoaxes popular in Edo period sideshows. But the important point is not whether the remains were authentic. The belief was villagers recorded sightings, parents enforced river taboos, offerings were made, stories were repeated not as entertainment, but as caution. The Kappa functioned as social control. Stay away from dangerous currents. Do not swim alone. Respect nature. Bow when confronted with the unknown. Then Japan changed. During the Meiji Restoration, late 19th century, modernization accelerated. Rivers were engineered. Urbanization expanded. Science advanced. Supernatural explanations lost authority in cities. Belief in literal Kappa declined, but it did not vanish everywhere. In rural Tono, Iwate Prefecture, folklorist Kunio Yanagida documented local yokai stories in the early 20th century. Kappa legends persisted there. Even today, Tono embraces Kappa mythology through statues, festivals, and preserved folklore, but the tone has softened. Modern depictions in anime and manga often portray Kappa as comedic or cute. The terror faded. Why? Because the function shifted. Concrete barriers replaced oral warnings. Swimming lessons replaced cautionary tales. The myth no longer needed to terrify to survive. It could transform into mascot, but that transformation raises an uncomfortable question. If the Kappa's purpose was to prevent drownings, and drownings still occur in uncontrolled rivers, why do local warnings still sometimes reference it? Because fear works. Even today, in some rural communities, older generations reference the Kappa when warning children about dangerous waters. Not jokingly, not ironically, but seriously. So is the Kappa alive? Biologically, there is no scientific evidence of an undiscovered amphibious humanoid species inhabiting Japanese rivers. Culturally, it remains active. Functionally, it persists wherever water remains unpredictable. It was never just a monster. It was a behavioral enforcement mechanism embedded in folklore. It punished recklessness. It rewarded respect. It existed where humans and nature collided. And when nature still wins, the Kappa still makes sense. Now consider this carefully. Every culture with dangerous rivers has water spirits. The Slavic Rusalka, the Scottish Kelpie, the German Nyx. Japan's version was a Kappa. The form changes. The function remains. So what did the Kappa endure? It endured modernization. It endured skepticism. It endured commercialization. It lost its terror, gained charm, but never lost identity. What good did it do? It prevented children from wandering into deadly currents. It reinforced etiquette. It symbolized respect for water. What harm did it represent? It amplified fear. It became associated with grotesque imagery. It embodied unexplained death. Why did it leave certain areas? Because rivers were domesticated. Because science replaced superstition. Because urban culture diluted rural folklore. And yet it did not die. It evolved. If you ask where it can be found today, you will not find it dragging victims beneath irrigation canals. You will find it in Tono festivals, in shrine carvings, in storybooks, in warning tales whispered quietly near old rivers. The Kappa was born from need. It lived through belief. It changed with society. And it survives as long as humans fear losing control to water. The river does not need a monster, but humans often do. And that is why, if the water ever goes still, you still step back.